Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. It's time to go swiggin' with the chicken. I'm Anthony.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Brian.
Welcome to issue number 264 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every week, we meet here to talk about comic books. This is a very important episode because we have a creator spotlight once again. We started doing them in 2023, and May is going to be no exception. Creator Spotlight with the creator of Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice. We have creator Brian Lynch here. Then we are going to jump into the weekly reviews. We're going to do things a little different. Jump into the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth. We talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old. We're going to talk about them there. Then we're going to do the club discussion. We've been holding off, waiting for our crew to get together once again, because we are going to cover It's Jeff #1, the one shot from Marvel Comics, as well as issue number 5 for Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. And then club member Katie has a very fun letters page question that ties directly into our ongoing monthly discussion of Once Upon a Time. So that is going to be the lineup for the show. But we wanted to make sure that we started it right. We wanted to go to the creator spotlight, shed a little light on this specific spot of the show. And so we are going to welcome here, as you heard him in the lineup, we have Brian Lynch, who is the creator of Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice. Welcome to the show, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about one of my favorite creations. As you said, Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice.
That is awesome. And look at the time. I think we're about good. So it was nice having you on. It was, we'll see you next time. Oh, wait, no, I think I have some questions here. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to learn a little bit about Brian. I know some stuff about him, but some of the questions that I brought here to the table, actually, not only for the benefit of everybody in this room, as well as, everybody listening and watching at home, but these are some things that I need to know about Brian a little more. So first, you have to let everybody know about this creation of Harold and Hot Wing of Justice. Kind of give us the elevator pitch and kind of what the whole idea behind this creation is.
Just having a fun time, and was talking to some of my fellow comic creative friends, and of course during COVID and everybody's kind of locked down, something just clicked. I came up with this chicken character who winds up getting zapped off of his bucket. And as he gets zapped off the bucket, he has this power, which is a hot wing that he uses for justice. And so it's just kind of a fun little creation, having fun with it. Looked up, I didn't see any characters that were similar to this here. So I started rolling with it and making him into what he is at this point.
And I didn't want to interrupt you there because that was a nice flow. But for any future interviews, when you said something just clicked, may I suggest a little editing? Something just clucked. How about that?
That's actually pretty good.
So the next interview, once you're on, Word Balloon, or you're on,
No, I'm always suggestions. I'll tell you that much.
when you're on David Letterman's, late show. I think he's still doing that, right? Okay, so that is kind of a little idea of what you've created, but let's go back a little further and kind of learn more about you. Basically, what is your earliest memory that you can think of about discovering comic books?
I can just remember walking with my mom. We were heading to a doctor's appointment. We walked into the local 7-Eleven, and at that time they had spinner racks full of comic books. I was allowed to pick up one to take while we were in the waiting room. And I can remember it was Star Wars number 38, and it had Luke Skywalker, it had an orange background to it, and he's just very prominently on the cover and everything. And that was probably the first comic book I ever got, and fell in love with Star Wars from the movies. It was great to see it as a comic book. I had never experienced anything like that before. So it was fun to do that. And it opened up the world to many another character for me.
Awesome. That's cool to hear. Now, just overall throughout your entire lifetime of reading comic books, basically, do you have any like favorite comic book titles and or characters beyond what you just mentioned with Star Wars? What
I've,
are you drawn to?
I've always been a fan of Batman. The fact that he wasn't a super powered hero and he was still able to take down these bad guys with his brains and his detective skills and ingenuity. And I think, as any kid, you can kind of relate to Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So those were probably the two big titles that I gravitated towards, growing up and into now even.
And if everybody's paying attention along, if they're like basically longtime fans of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, we'll see that you basically checked off some bingo spaces of the club by mentioning Star Wars, which got Katie kind of smiling. You mentioned Batman, which perked Jim up a little bit. So I just want to let you know there's two other spaces that feel free to plop these answers into any of this conversation, whether it be Howard the Duck, to get Kirby going, maybe Silver Surfer, and you'll see me, bounce off the walls. So there we go. You're doing good right now.
Well, I mean, I remember Howard the Duck, the movie when it came out. So hopefully that checks one of the boxes. Silver Surfer, I can't say that I was really introduced to him until it was like just a little 2-issue miniseries that he had early on. And so I do like Silver Surfer. I actually, nothing's really known about him yet, but I've kind of got my own Galactus / Silver Surfer characters in the form of you're hearing it here pretty much first. Where got this hippo character who's always hungry, and he's got a skateboard riding cardinal who has to find him food, and the hippo unintentionally goes into these places and wind up going into a rude food mood and winds up destroying them and regretting it afterwards. So there's kind of a Silver Surfer reference for you.
Well, geez, there we go. We checked off that bingo card. You already had the free space just by clicking, to the link to get in here. And basically, now you gave us an exclusive. So this is probably going to be our highest rated episode, probably. So thank you very much for that. Look forward to it. Now that kind of gives us a little insight on who you are and what kind of stuff you enjoy for reading. But let's jump back now into the meat of the topic, if you will, with Harold and his hot wing of justice. Now, how did this creation start? You talked about it a little bit, but let's kind of get into it now. Just how that actually, when you started putting it to paper and finally be like, this is what I'm going to do. Kind of give us a little description about how that came about.
Absolutely, I love it because after I came up with like his origin story, I actually messaged it to Art Baltazar, famous cartoonist, and he loved it. So that kind of like encouraged me to be like, okay, immediately like a little sequence of a sequel and everything. And shortly after that, Oh Yeah Comics manager Joe Crone started implementing Monday night hangout for creators. So I decided this is what I kind of want to explore. I want to see if I can do this. And so Monday night, back up my iPad, I get over there and it's me, Joe, and Art. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this here. So I'm drawing it, having fun with it. And I'll tell you, more people started joining week to week, which was really, really awesome. And at that time, I started comparing myself to some of these other artists, and I was like, I don't know if I belong here. But then I realized my style is just that, it's my style. So anyone that listens, you get your own style, you go with it and enjoy it, So like I said, so started doing those creator hangouts and having a fun time, a lot of encouragement from Art and some of the other artists and creators that were there. Free Comic Book Day comes around, and I actually put together a mini book, and I don't know if you can see it here. It's called The Comic. Oh, now you got this year's version of it.
Oh, I don't even have that one then.
This is the first version of it. And it's actually, my daughter, when she was younger, went to a comic book camp. And it was really cool because they took a regular sheet of paper and you would draw your sequence out of sequence a little bit. Right? Hopefully you guys can kind of see this. And then cut and fold, and you got a mini comic. So I asked Joe if I could give them away there. They were very successful. And again, it's just an encouraging environment. I also made this mini book that I brought around to C2E2. There you go, man. Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice Chicago's the C2E2. This here, a bunch of characters, just kind of giving the rundown as to what C2E2 was about and some of the experiences I have here. One of my favorite things was I got to meet this man right here, Billy D. Williams, sorry. And I had to talk to him for a few minutes, and he looked at the book and he, short and sweet, he said, "That's nice. That's all I need," So just having fun with it. And now I've created some stickers. I've created, the mascots from C2E2, the Chicago style pizza and the Chicago dog. It's not mustard on there. I mean, ketchup. So you've got that. And then, like I said, between making some stickers, I've made a print, made another mini comic, which you showed, which kind of is that little comic book character. This guy right here made his debut on the free comic book day comic. And I just feel like anything comic related, whether it be the free comic book day, C2E2 or whatever, that he has to make an appearance somehow.
Now, you did mention the print. Is this the print we're talking about here?
That is the print, an homage to kind of the Peanuts scene. On some of my live videos, I've talked about some of the characters there. The one, obviously the comic book guy, the little thought bubble there is AMG. I've got myself in there because, who doesn't want that handsome face on a print? That character over my left-hand side is a character my daughter created called Delight the Candle. For my right-hand side, towards the top is Wingman. He's Harold's biggest fan. Just below him is a pencil. I call him Doe Art Writer, and he's actually who I say is the creator of the comic book guy. You have over a Doe Art shoulder, Matt Cha, and he's got the same problem that I kind of have. Ask anybody, my hard T's in the middle of words, and I figured what better character to have a hard T than a T bag. So all of his writing will be on that little tag, and it'll always be capital T's. Playing the instrument there is Barbie Queen Sauce, or BBQ. Oh, her is an ant, and his name is Lance Cyborg. Yes. His origin is tied into the bucket that Harold got zapped off of. Obviously, we see Harold, and we see Bart A. Star, who's our local Starbucks barista, and playing the piano there, modeled after some famous cartoonist. Maybe you guys, I don't know.
Doesn't ring a bell.
And then right in the middle of everything.
That is awesome. Yeah. And then I'm holding this book in my hands. Do you want to talk about exactly what this is?
That is my first comic book. It's Hot Wing of Justice, Social Interaction. And again, just through the support of everybody, feedback from everybody, the first cover that I had, one of my friends says, like, it looks like a 3-year-old book. And I'm like, oh, not exactly the audience that I want to go for. Sure, it's an all ages book and all ages character, but I wanted it to look a little bit better. So after probably about 15 or 20 different edits, from large ones to minor edits, the book came together. One of my favorite things, if you open up that first page there and show the thank you page, I don't know where I came up with the idea. It just clucked. And so those are some key people: Diane, Kathleen, Tony, Joe, Lance, Art, DJ, Jeremy, James, Adam, Anthony here. I like the idea of, I remember, you get your books, put your name here, this book belongs to. I wanted something a little more than that. I wanted something, because this book isn't possible with each and every person that buys it. Because if nobody's buying it, there's no book. So I really, truly mean thank you to everyone who supported it so far. So got some Instagram stories that I've put up in there. One of my favorites, the actual post didn't make it in there, but a reference to it is Mark Hamill. I had done a picture for him for his birthday, and it was Harold interacting with Skeletor. It was Harold interacting with Luke Skywalker. It was Harold interacting with the Joker. All things that, famously Mark Hamill had voiced. And it was cool because he shared it on his story. So I took that post, had to put it in the book. And I love how he signs his Twitter or Instagram signature. It's MAR, and then there's a camel. So that's why Harold's talking to Mark in that particular picture and everything. And gave him the older beard and everything, and kind of like that, because of that's what his look is these days and everything. And so just had fun doing that one with the thank you. I was like shocked that's, besides some other creators and artists that have gone through like some of my posts, that was probably one of the, for me as a fan, that was huge. Mark Hamill shared my picture on his story. Yeah. So I was like happy with that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff out there now. If somebody wanted to obtain some of these items, how would they go about doing such thing?
You can reach out to me. I am working on getting a website together. But currently, if you reach out to me, you can email me at hotwingofjustice@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Instagram with a message. I check my Instagram messages the most, and that's at hotwingofjustice on Instagram. Twitter is at hotwingjustice. There is no of in there because of their character limitations, but so any of those ways. Love the fan interaction. I love seeing comments on any of my posts and everything, so I highly encourage it. And if you want to get a hold of me, I will definitely respond to you.
And in the post-production, I'll throw up all those links while you're talking about it too, so people's got up, they have all the wordage. Basically, I'll just put everything that you see on the back of the book here, and has all the information. Perfect. Now, you and I have hung out a couple times at Oh Yeah Comics in beautiful downtown Skokie, and that's how we had met in person. But it all started through just kind of seeing each other's names in the comments for Art's videos and things like that, and going to the Abraham Linkage release party was a pretty big deal. I believe that was the first time that you and I interacted in person, and yeah, and what was really cool about that, which kind of leads into our opening cover image, there's another talent that you have, not just with coming up with these funny little cartoons and comic strip type things, but can you explain what is happening on this cover image here? What's going on here?
That is my attempt at making a Rice Krispie Hot Wing of Justice. In my mind, that flame looks so much better. But yeah, that was probably one of the better looking ones, to be honest with you. But I do. I like the malleability of the Rice Krispie treats. I like the fact that on one of your previous podcasts, you showed the Abraham Lincoln ones that I made. With this one here, it was fun to make a bunch of them. I've made some Action Cat heads as far as that goes. So I always try to bring something interesting because it's such a great group of guys over there, and they don't always have the time because they're setting up. So I like to contribute a little something, I guess, and I think that's my contribution whenever they'll let me.
Now you mentioned Action Cat when we were hanging out at Free Comic Book Day for 2023. That was just last week at the time of this recording. I was hanging around, helping, talking, whatever, and I was sketching in between. I was looking at some characters and tried. I brought in Happy Astronaut and Kid Slapshot from my Cartoonist by Night brothers, and then I'm like, well, I should have Harold in a drawing too. So I came up with a quick sketch in which I had Harold and Action Cat are about to, he's kind of hanging out his wing to shake his hand, but Action Cat's a little, he's a little hesitant to touch that hot wing there. But
I think I would be too, even though you're a superhero cat, you don't know. And Anthony, I love it. One thing that I say this a lot, but I truly do mean it. I'm humbled by the reaction I'm getting from people. And when I see other artists such as yourself and everybody else drawing my characters that I've created, it makes me feel good. Makes me know that it's fun, that the fun is catching on with other artists and creators, and that it's a sense of pride through being humbled and just prideful all at once, if you can imagine that.
now I do have one specific topic when you talked about, seeing reactions of things that you've done. So I'm going to mention that, but I just want to let everyone know for the club members here, if anybody has any questions they want to, feel free to let us know. I'm going to cover this one thing here, and then we'll kind of open up the floor if anybody wanted to have any questions here for Brian. But when you're getting reactions about characters that you've drawn, now there's one that I'm real curious on the reaction for this character here that happens to be standing here with Harold. Can you give us a little insight on what's going on with this pumpkin person?
That was supposed to be a one shot, one off, use it for that particular joke. And I just needed something for a pumpkin spice kind of a pun. And your friend, Joe Crone, the manager at All Yeah Comics, saw that and said, that's creepy, it's scary, and he's revolted by it. And so, of course, I put Harold, one of the Harold cartoons, had that pumpkin in the background, like a figurine on a shelf. Fast forward to the last couple of weeks through that meeting with all of the creators and everything that come through on Monday nights. I've probably had another half a dozen people draw that pumpkin in various poses, and just to kind of freak Joe out a little bit, which, I'm not encouraging anyone to freak him out, but yeah, let's draw that pumpkin. And I know someone else did a great job, and I hope that's what you're about to show us right now.
Oh man, we did not even plan this, but that worked out perfectly. So when I'm sketching, I'm like, all right, I have another character. I just did, Troy Dungara's character and Matt Rogers and Matt Fife, and I'm like just one character per person. But then I did your character of Harold. I'm like, there's another character that needs exploring here, and I decided to draw this pumpkin character, basically lifting weights with action or adventure bug there, and so I did like an extra, muscular, it's definitely arm day and leg day going on with this pumpkin character. Now I was in, cahoots with Adam Crone and saying that, here's a little drawing for Joe. I'll zoom in on here, but so I have him just saying, hey Joe, and I ran out of room, and I'm like, because I wanted to write more on that, and I'm like, oh, I got some room on the bottom here, so I'll just zoom in. But then, so I found a good placement for a word balloon here. It says, I love you. And Adam snuck it into, I think, either his backpack or his comic book, pull for himself at the store. And were you there when he uncovered it, Brian?
No, I wasn't there for that one, but the reaction I heard,
Yeah,
that's
so
priceless.
we had no idea when it was going to be found, if it was going to be found after the event, maybe Monday or something. And we everybody knew once he found it because it pretty much stopped the entire shop. And Joe was just like, "Who did this?" Or like, "What is this?" And held it up. Everybody laughed and everyone clapped and cheered. And yeah, it was well received. When you're talking about reactions, that one went over very well. So that pumpkin character, very near and dear to my heart. So all
Well,
right.
to
Yes.
page your book,
Say that
this
again.
here,
Oh,
this sticker was also inserted into Joe's poll. It's like an 8-bit pumpkin character. Signing at All Yeah Comics this past Sunday, Art Baltazar. And I love how he put hashtag Joe on there as well. With the little,
yeah, that hashtag will only get to you Joe Crone related discussions. So. Well, that was definitely a lot of fun. Is there anybody that here at the club that kind of want to throw in any questions? Feel free to do so.
I have one. What's your favorite wing sauce?
Oh, I don't know that I have one. I
Fair.
think just basically what was it? Wingstop. They have like a Jack Daniels barbecue sauce on it.
Oh,
And
nice.
always into that one. So if I had to pick one, like a Jack Daniels wing sauce.
Mm.
But Hero doesn't like me eating wings, so
No, yeah, not around him. We won't tell him, but that does sound pretty good. That sounds nice. I tried that too.
do you have a favorite wing sauce?
So I'm partial to the classic buffalo sauce. I have family there, so I have allegiance to that. But like if I'm going to B Dubs, I love getting the Caribbean jerk sauce.
Okay,
So
yeah, it's a spicy one, so awesome.
mhm.
Yeah, I'll dip into I like a Parmesan garlic, and usually I'll settle with like a medium sauce. I don't like getting hot. I don't, I like
Yeah.
a little sweat on the brow, but I don't need to, be an uncomfortable one in a meeting. So medium's pretty much my comfort zone.
Yeah.
How about everybody else here? Kirby, do you have a preferred wing sauce?
Well, my favorite wing is the Inferno wings, and I like them just straight up with ranch. Because you got all the spice you need right there in the crispy wings, and then you just dip them in that cool ranch. As long as there's no blue cheese on the table, it's not allowed.
Jim, do you have a preference of a wing sauce?
If I'm looking for hot, I like either a jerk or a classic buffalo, or if I'm looking for not hot, like a garlic sauce.
There you go. Cool, cool. Any other questions that anybody have before we move on? Kirby?
Yeah. Well, I love your shorts that you have on your Instagram. I went through a few and I cracked up multiple times just checking them out. If you ever want to do a parody on Howard the Duck, I suggest doing Harold and the Hot Saucy Nuggets. Do a little musical band get together thing going on there. And as far as the comic and stuff goes, you still have them available for sale?
I do. They're $5. It was great this past weekend. And with all you having a few of them beforehand, I was fortunate enough to sell through about 30, 35 copies out of the 50 copies I had printed. So I'm considering second print, but definitely hold, we can message each other later and
Yep.
definitely a copy in your hands. I appreciate that, Kirby.
Yeah, definitely want to get more of this character. So
Awesome.
Awesome.
I
Cool,
got a
cool.
question. I was just spending some time scrolling through your Instagram, and I saw a bunch of where you have like a blank covers where you did your the chicken wing character on different other comics covers. I was wondering,
Yes.
are those your comics or are you doing that for other people?
Actually, I did that digitally. There was an artist, Chris Giarusso, who was doing Inktober, but his own version of where I was regular Inktober prompts. And then I saw what he was doing, and I'm a big fan of his as well. And I wanted to kind of challenge myself with some of these different poses and things that I not necessarily had done before. And so I started doing what I call Giarusso October. It doesn't really roll off the tongue too well, but I did a lot of that digitally. But I've since started sketching on a couple of different covers. I did an 8 Billion Genies painted cover when they had that. So primarily for the Instagram stuff, I do digital, but I do love the paper and pencil. There's nothing like it. So
It was the sparkly 8 Billion Genies one that first caught my eye, and then I started noticing more of them. So
thank you. I had fun doing that. Joe, again, being a big supporter of the character and everything, was probably more outraged that I didn't win that contest than I was. So
and I appreciate like the puns in the panels that I was seeing there too. That was fun to read through. So
I love it. I've got stories that I want to get out there that are just going to be as many puns and everything in there. So I appreciate you guys being along for the ride. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Thank
Cool,
you,
cool.
Anthony, for bringing you to our attention.
No, I appreciate that too, because this is a fun. It's a nice little interview. You guys are great people, so thank you.
Aw,
Great to hear. Likewise. All
yeah,
right,
you're
well,
most welcome, of course.
So there is everything you need to know about Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice. But if you want to get your hands on some of this merchandise, once again, reach out to Brian, and I'll probably put the links. Future Anthony will put the links right here or there or somewhere over here. I don't know where they go, but we'll take care of it. But yeah, so it was a pleasure to have you on to talk about this. We're excited to see some more adventures with Harold. And normally this is the part where we kick off the creator spotlight guests and say, all right, let's get back to our normal show. But you're going to hang around for our weekly reviews because you're going to have some stuff to talk about too. So
Nice.
so we'll wrap it up for our creator spotlight. But for the iTunes version, they're going to hear a little theme song or a little page break or something like that. So we're going to jump over to the weekly reviews. And this is the behind the scenes stuff that the YouTube audience actually gets to see. They see me sort of miming that I am saving some files that they can't see on their side, make sure the audio is all looking good. And then here we go. This is what it looks like when I hit record for the next segment. Man, it's amazing stuff. No other podcast kind of give that little insight on how to make a podcast. Tell you. All right. Everything's all up and running. And we are going to dive right into the weekly reviews in just 1 second. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the weekly reviews. I'm going to kick it off with a couple of Free Comic Book Day 2023 highlights of my own. I had gotten a big stack of the books. I didn't get through most of them, but there was a couple that I was most excited for. So I'm going to talk about them here. One thing that I led a lot of people to at Oh Yeah Comics, I was kind of manning the table over there for a while. And Archie Horror came out with the Cursed Library. We've been talking a lot about these Chilling Adventure and Archie Horror books that they've been releasing over the past year or so, and they give a couple little short stories from a couple samplings from some of those one-shot releases. So if you've never checked it out, this is a great place to jump on to kind of really see what they're all about. You don't need to know anything about Archie Comics. If you're just a fan of horror, you get to see some of that stuff. And yeah, they do a good job of just including a couple of the stories. We got some Betty stuff in here. We got Kevin. I think they have one of the most recent one for the Wilkin boy is in here too. So yeah, and then some good back matter about how that stuff came to be. So I highly suggest anyone to check this out for a perfect free comic book day sampling on what Archie has been doing over in the horror department. Jeff Lemire released a rather hefty size preview of his upcoming Fish Flies series. I buy a lot of what Jeff Lemire does, and so I already have issues of this pre-ordered. But I knew that I was going to pick this up anyways. And knowing Jeff Lemire, he's got a very specific style, and that's what I come to all of his books for. I just absolutely love seeing his style and just the all the kind of creepy stories he develops. And this is kind of about some kids going to like a little mini mart, and they come across basically all of these fish flies, and basically the entire lot in front of the mini mart is just covered in these fish flies, and the kids are kind of basically daring each other to kind of go across it and go get their sodas or whatever they're buying, their ice cream sandwiches. And while it all seems kind of fun, innocent childhood fun and shenanigans, the second half of the story, which I won't talk about here because it's a free comic book day issue, short little preview. But yeah, it takes a very interesting, horrific turn as we follow some other characters and some bloody mess and some more fish flies, and it just gets into a real crazy scenario. And then we kind of dip back into the story with the children and kind of see what lies in that mini mart. So yeah, fish flies. If you're a fan of Jeff Lemire, you're probably going to pick this up anyways. But this is a nice little preview of a mini series that is coming soon from him, and this is coming in July of 2023. 6 giant-sized issues, and then the last one I will highlight for my free comic book day pickups. Something that I didn't know until very late in the game, and I was glad I was able to pick one up. But it is published under this Punch Up title from Oni Press. Punch Up title. I'm not too familiar with the characters of Punch Up and what's all happening here. But the reason I picked this up, because when you look on the back here, you see one of our friendly little ghosts here that we talk about many a times here at the Crimson Cowl Comic Club is Wendell. Wendell's the ghost is created in the star of Brenna Thumbler's now what's going to be the 3 graphic novel series for Sheets, Delicates, and then this coming fall is Lights. So we actually get a 10-page preview of Lights that is coming out to complete her graphic novel trilogy. And just a little preview on what's happening with this character. I'm not going to dive too much into it as well, because this is only a 10-page thing. But the Book of Lights is basically going to dip into Wendell's life before becoming a ghost. And you get a little sampling of just basically how that character had passed away. And it's going to be quite an interesting book. I can't wait to reread Sheets and Delicates leading up to the release. So I was pretty pumped to kind of get that little preview within this this Punch Up book from Oni Press. So those are the 3 that I really dug. Got a bunch of the other stuff, just haven't dove into them yet. But I know Brian, once we get around to his segment, he was going to talk about some free comic book day titles as well. So that completes my first round. And free comic book day, if you missed out on it, check in with your local shop. It's possible that they may still have some copies left. Just ask about them, and that's that. All right, let's jump over to Kirby. What you got for us?
Well, for starters, I'm enjoying this nice cup of chocolate bunny mocha, or actually it's called Stabity bunny mocha. There's this thing going on lately where you can buy a coffee related cover with certain comic books, and they did Stabity Bunny a couple previews catalogs ago. It came with a nice little packet of coffee. I think this was the only size with this one. It's pretty good coffee. But in this month's preview, I can't remember which comic it is, but there is another one, and they have a large size coffee and this size coffee, and it comes with a nice little Babbity Bunny cartoon on the back, which is awesome. It's a nice little collaboration. And you're paying extra just for basically the first issue with a new cover is what you're getting. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. But I checked out Junk Rabbit, and surprisingly, number 1 and 2 both came in my box this month. That was nice. A new hero rises from mountains of consumer waste, mass homelessness, and devastating climate change. Some call the hero a myth, an urban legend, but others know that it's the Junk Rabbit come to life. Jimmy Johnson brings a new take on the dystopian tale of how climate disaster alters not only our world, but also the heroes that literally rise from it. Swamp Thing meets RoboCop. This, I figured, what the heck, just test it out, check it out. And I was really happy with it. It was a lot of fun. And you're basically in a world where the 1%ers are living in domes with a whole different atmosphere. Everybody else, us normies, are living out in their trash and surviving out there by taking their trash, fixing it up, reselling it and stuff like that, and using it to get through life. And as they're doing it, these people also worship the Junk Rabbit as a protector. And the 1%ers have some militant people out and about, and something happens where someone gets taken out, and on camera they see this character appear, and they see the tattoo on the person's body of a rabbit. So it brings back lore of the past of a character that they dealt with, and they're like, this character is still alive and it's out and about, and we have to take it down and capture it and all that. So they're trying to, of course, go after the Junk Rabbit, and while they do, all kinds of things happen along the way. But it's a wonderful cast of characters in here. The Junk Rabbit character, we're getting the gist of it, and she's pretty bad. He is pretty badass in here. I like how much ability he does have. We're still waiting to find out the results of that in the storyline. I just have my own opinions of it. But yeah, this is a lot of fun if you like that type of dystopian world where we're just dealing with the higher class just crapping on the lower class and trying to survive. And this is just a really fun look at it and a new twist to it. So yeah, I definitely suggest checking this one out. I think it's scheduled for a 5 or 6 issue run to start with. So I could definitely see this getting pushed on a little bit further if it gets enough attention off the bat.
Cool. All right, let's jump over to Jim. You're next up. What you got for us on the weeklies?
I have a trade paperback called Harleen. This was originally issued as, I believe, 3 regular comic books. And my sister Erin got it when it first came out, and I wasn't able to read it for her. So I was looking forward to this when it came out, and I actually received it a while ago. I finally got through the backlog that I had built up and got to read it. This is another wonderful story about Harley Quinn. Since I brought the podcast to you last time, this is also a very similar origin story about her and Joker. However, this is not showing, it's not a twist on it like she was the instigator, but it does show her decline and how she fell for the Joker, and how, you know, she went from being kind of a brilliant sought after psychiatrist to the one who helps Joker become the super tyrant that he eventually became, and led to her own criminal career. I was mostly impressed with the artwork in this story. There's not a lot unique in the story itself, other than the fact that she gets to meet Lucius Fox, who recruits her to work for initiative that Wayne Industries is starting to study the psycho criminals of Gotham City. And rather than Bruce Wayne, but near the beginning of the story, she has an encounter with a Joker who is out in the wild and on one of his crime sprees. And instead of actually killing her outright like he did to so many other people, he bypassed her. And then months or years later, whatever it ends up being, when she starts working with him at Arkham Asylum, he recalls that. And that's kind of helps lead her down the path that is like, why did he remember me? Why did he spare me and everything? But the book is written and art by I'm probably gonna murder this name, but it is Stepan Sajic. And it's got some strange symbols from some kind of I don't know if it's Polish or other Eastern European language that I'm not familiar with, but like there's just some great full panels and that I can't of course find right now, but and just being oversized, it just pays to have this book because wrong side. It's just some great panels to see. And this is a good page where she gets to meet Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy. And it sets up her relationship with that person as we eventually become to know it. Here's a nice panel of Harvey Dent as Two-Face. Yeah, so I think this one is going to be added to my collection of art books that I will be displayed. Oh, here we go. Here's some good ones. This is a good picture of Harley and Joker, and then another one of Harley in kind of a green state. Yeah, so now I'm just going blank on the name, Anthony. Who was the one that
Are you thinking of Lee Bermejo?
yeah, the Bermejo, yep.
You didn't have to lead me to it. You just said, who am I thinking of? Lee Bermejo.
This book is going to get added to that collection that will be like coffee book style, books for me. So I'm really thrilled that I actually did get the hardcover instead of the paperback. It was an accident on my ordering, but I'm glad I got it that way. So
Yeah, I had picked those up in the single issue format, and Harley had a couple, and her and Joker had a couple of those black label mini series that none of them were really connected and stuff. But that is one that I had picked up because I saw that art, and I'm like, oh, I got to check those out. So
exactly, I'm so happy with it right now, because of the art. Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, now it's time to jump over to Brian Lynch, the creator of Harold and his Hot Wing of Justice. What are you bringing to the table for our weekly review segment?
Well, I've got this book. Oh, wait, we already talked about it.
Yep. Next one.
All right, next one. I also chose a couple of the free comic book day books. Normally, I'm not a fan of these giant crossovers where they make you buy 50 issues of comics that you're not really interested in. But this whole Night Terrors is just the artwork in it. The concept of it is really, really interesting. They don't really go a whole lot into the book as to what's going on, but we open the story where Robin's kind of having some nightmares. And what I want to do is jump right into like some of the concept art, because there's some characters here. This is the Night Terror Wonder Woman. And so I'm really kind of liking the art style. The concept is Robin goes in, they just finished fighting some criminals, and he's having a dream. and then he thinks he wakes up. I mean, this is the opening page. I think that the artwork is. So he thinks he wakes up, and the recurring theme in here is that he keeps coming across a bunch of eyes kind of watching him and everything. So I'll admit, like I said, I'm not normally into these big crossovers, but this one's got me intrigued because I want to know who this villain is, how he's getting into his dreams, his nightmares, and everything else. So I showed you the Wonder Woman. Another one that kind of stood out for me was surprisingly Black Adam, and I thought it was kind of a simplistic design here, but still, it just a different kind of version of him. In the book, they also show you Superman and Robin with that there. So that was one of the first ones that I picked up. And then I also picked up The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Battle for the Pumpkin King. I've been liking that these companies are coming out with prequels and everything. So the art style is pretty good here. You got the old Pumpkin King, and what he's in the beginning of the book, you're kind of shown like what Oogie Boogie's and Jack's relationship is. They're friends, they're competitive with each other, they're racing, they're having other things. And you do see where he kind of, Oogie Boogie's a cheater. He doesn't, he's got to win and everything. So they come up and they want to get a new Pumpkin King. The Pumpkin King's set to retire and everything. And so after the town meeting and everything, they nominate that Jack would be one of the potential people following them, and Oogie Boogie. And now there's going to be a bunch of contests and everything for this year to see who the new King is. So kind of a prequel or origin story, which I'm really liking, because they just did Scar. I think Dynamite did this one here. This one here is from Tokyo Pop. So I'm excited about this one as well. So those are my two picks for Free Comic Book Day, weekly reviews, and loving what I'm seeing here, what the potential can be.
Cool. Now, in that Nightmare Before Christmas one, did they have I don't want you to spoil it, but did they have like how that Pumpkin King had any relation with Pumpkin the Pumpkin at all? This guy. I don't know if there's any crossover, if you were talking with Disney or what's going on there, but
no, I didn't catch that. That might be in the series though, where they kind of merge the worlds and everything here. So
beautiful. All right, we'll jump into the next round here. This book I read a couple of weeks ago, and apparently I think there's 4 issues out now. I think they actually double ship some of them. But I am talking about The Ambassadors, issue number 1. The most ambitious comic book of all time is finally here. Imagine you could gift superpowers to 6 people. In a world of 8 billion, who do you choose? Join 6 of the greatest artists in the industry for an enormous story about ordinary people from around the world explaining why it should be them. This series, or this specific issue, I should say, is done by Mark Miller, Frank Whiteley, Clem Robbins, and Vincent M.G. Dahan. That's what I'm going with. Yes. So Mark Miller, I buy most of his books, and this one is, definitely one of them. Setting up that the idea of these big superhero ideas. It's a concept he kind of dives into a couple different times with his characters, but I really dug this concept. This idea of basically all the countries in the world have been trying to create this Superman project. They're all trying to do it, and nobody seems to figure it out until we do basically find out from this little girl. Her name is Korea, and she basically just shows up on the scene and kind of throws it out there that that basically she wants to find the people, basically all of these ambassadors, and kind of wants to handpick these people to be gifted these powers. And I'm trying to show off. I don't know what I want to show off here. Some bloody stuff going on in here, but there's a lot of great ideas when it comes to the superhero stuff. But the main thing I really was drawn to this is that each issue is going to be drawn by a different artist. Mark has worked with a lot of people over his career, and it's Frank Whiteley's on this one. I think Olivier Coipel is on a different one, and like I said, the other three issues are just waiting for me to read, so I can't wait to dive in. But I just love that concept of this little girl kind of coming in and showing off that hey, they figured out the superhero, the Superman project, and
Mhm.
now it's time to share the wealth, if you will. But yeah, it was a pretty big first issue. Mark Miller does a good job of doing that kind of things, jumping in. He always has most of these things be mini series, and he's got something even bigger that's planned for July 19th. As I'm looking at the back cover
Hmm.
here, something that is referred to as the big game. This is something he's been teasing, that basically all of his creator-owned stuff is apparently going to be connecting in one big grand crossover. All of his stuff has existed comfortably into their own little stories, but it's all been building to this. And Mark Miller just has that creative drive of just continuously coming up with these ideas, and just kind of what he always says is snatching up the big artists from the big two. And he'll just tweet out just being like, all right, everyone vote, which Marvel or DC artist do you want me to steal next? And he gets them. He gets all these people onto these. Just I love all the plates he spins, and yeah, so I'm always signing up for Mark Miller books, and the Ambassadors #1 lives up to that.
Anthony, that story concept sounds a little bit like 8 Billion Genies. What do you think about that? Which is
So
also an excellent series. Go read that, everyone.
yeah, so when I read the synopsis and I saw that in a world of 8 billion, who do you choose? And I'm just like, wait, we just kind of had a wish type of
Yeah,
thing.
that was a good
But
pick.
well, yeah, it's almost like a reverse wish, because now it's just like in 8 billion genies, everybody just pretty much has the power to do whatever with however they
Oh,
decide that
true.
wish.
Sure.
And then in this one, it's basically got down to like one person that's now choosing amongst 8 billion, being like, all right, only what, six or seven of you, or whatever the number. Yeah, there's six artists, six books, six issues. But yeah, so basically kind of hand picking from everyone. And now everyone's going to try to, prove their worth on why they deserve to have the superpowers. But yeah, that did kind of strike me right off the cover there, where they're just kind of dealing with that a similar concept where the entire world gets to play, or will they?
Yeah. Well, very cool. Nice way to spin that theme. Sounds exciting.
Cool. All right. Yeah,
Now,
Kirby.
now is it Mark Miller or Mark Millar?
It's Mark Miller, even though it's spelled like Millar, but it's Miller.
Okay, because I always think Frank Miller, and then I've been calling him Millar all this time, and I'm really looking forward to this stupid big game book, just because he's putting it out with a blank cover and teasing us, telling us it has nothing to do with what you think it's gonna be. It'll be this
Yeah.
big thing, big event. It's like, damn it, I'm getting it.
And coming from Mark Miller, like, he definitely talks a big game, and the things that he the way he promotes, the way he's very cocky, but it's all stuff rooted from like he's gotten himself to that point in the industry where he has a whole back catalog of Marvel and DC events, and everything that he's done with those companies is just like this creator has literally done everything, and he never has to like play in Marvel and DC if ever again, if he doesn't want to, because he has his own entire world here. And it's just
Yeah, I got tons of from him.
and I know, like, I know I'll say this, like, being a huge fan of him, I've met him twice. He was jealous of me having an arcade machine, and I'm like, well, you're the creator of Kick-Ass. If you want to switch lives, I mean, feel free. You can have my arcade machine. But I know there's people that will see his books and they know, like, you know what you're getting in a Mark Miller book, in the sense of like how hype everything is, and just how huge and over the top, and it's just like, this is even how he built it here. This is the most ambitious comic book of all time since his last comic book series that came out like probably a month or two ago, and then the next one will be the same thing. But I think he's earned that kind of right to pretty much hype this stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been disappointed yet. All
All
right,
right, what you got?
I got another one shot from Monsters of Metal, My Bloody Valentine, written by Jason Lee Howden, Lexi Leon, art by Louise Garagna, cover by Ryan Christensen. They don't give you much of a description on there, but basically the band's out and about doing their thing. We got the standard crew: Wolfgang, Frank, Jacko, Bride, Medina the Gorgon, and we have a special appearance by Krampus. Krampus decides to join the gang this time around. But they're out doing their thing, and Frank, which of course is a Frankenstein style character, happens to have they go on a ayahuasca excursion, and the whole band, all the band members partake in some ayahuasca, and they all have their own visions and everything. And Frank has this vision of this lovely lady that just happens to appear out of the lake, creature of the Black Lagoon style. And later on, we find out that she talked the shaman into turning his concoction into ecstasy instead of ayahuasca, and that's so she could kind of mess with Frank and kind of try and take advantage of him. And that's how this whole storyline goes. Basically, the band's wondering what's going on, why Frank's got this attitude. He wants to leave the band, go out on his own and stuff. And while they're doing all this, they're on a cruise line, a Monsters of Metal style. I forget what they name this one, but they do mention other band cruise line things from the past, and just played off that. And there's friend Krampus again, joining in, partying it up on the boat. But they don't know that Van Helsing just happened to jump on ship. And Van Helsing, this story gets a little out of whack, as you know, just even bringing up the ayahuasca and stuff like that. But Mr. Van Helsing brings his girlfriend along that just happens to be a real girl. I don't know, it's not an actual human being, it's a doll. But yeah, this story goes a little bit off the rails. I'd love to say something about Medusa that just cracked me up. Yeah, this is a very fun, interesting look at the rock band on a cruise ship, band members having little attitudes and issues, Frankie falling in love with someone else, and of course the bride and Frankie have a thing that's been going on for a while, and so there's some jealousy there and stuff too. But yeah, this was probably one of my favorite ones so far from Monsters of Metal, but they've all been a blast so far, and there's a great little one shot. Opus Comics again, it does a lot of the music style comics. I say check it out if you're into that type of thing at all. This is a lot of fun. So.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, if you mention the creature from the Black Lagoon, it does show up, from time to time. So just
yeah, that's what I figured. You recently made a purchase and stuff. So.
Cool. All right, and I think our last portion of the weekly reviews here, Jim, what you got? Let's bring it home.
I have kind of the end of one of these big crossover events that happened recently at DC, the Lazarus Planet. This is Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, #4. And like I said, this kind of wraps up a lot of what happened in there, especially the stuff that happened with Shazam and Mary Marvel and the Wonder Women characters, where they were all involved. during this event, Hera was released from her imprisonment and kind of tried to take over as the chief of the Olympian gods again. And she was assisted by the wizard Shazam, because he tried to take the power back from Billy Batson, because he was afraid that there was going to be another Black Adam situation corrected. This was resolved by a battle, huge battle on Themyscira that involved some, different factions of the gods, and a lot of the female goddesses were brought together by Hippolyta, who is Wonder Woman, Diana of Themyscira's mother, but she was previously queen of the Amazons. Now she is no longer queen of the Amazons. She has been elevated to a goddess of Olympia in her own right now. That happens during the storyline where Wonder Woman is gone. Hippolyta came to man's world and took Diana's place on the Justice League. When that run was done, then she was, they had already put a new queen in place named Nubia, and then she got her promotion to be a god. Now in this storyline, she brings her own coalition of goddesses to fight against Hera. And everything goes back to normal. Themyscira is freed. She has a touching reunion with Nubia, who was her lover while she was queen of the Amazons. Now, and in this story, Nubia goes and prays to and calls on Hippolyta to come and assist them, and which brings her back. But the point I'm bringing up in bringing this comic today was the very ending. We see Mary and Billy sitting on I think it's like the reflecting pool, like outside of the Washington Monument there, that big long pool. They're sitting there, and he calls on the wizard and asks, what was going on. It's like, and the wizard, explains to him, it's like, well, I was afraid that you were going to abuse the power and, this, so I took it back. But seeing that you were going to give the power to somebody else, and it makes you worthy, and because Mary, you wanted to give the power to somebody else, it makes you worthy. So the wizard returns the power to Billy, but Mary is not left alone. Hippolyta and shows up and says, Mary Marvel stands in no man's shadow, and we goddesses grant you the portal beyond your mortal ken. And there are standing in front of her Artemis, Selene, Zephyrus, Minerva, Aurora, and Hippolyta, Amazon Queen herself, who give Mary Marvel her own pantheon of goddesses so that she can have her own power of Shazam. And this is just kind of something that you've kind of seen leading up in like the previews and in other storylines. You kind of get the feeling of that in the last Shazam movie, where they show that Mary is much more intelligent, smarter and everything than Billy, and that she should be the leader. You kind of get that feeling. She was the Marvel surviving in the Deceased zombie storyline books that came out recently. Yep, there you go. Kirby's got them. And so now there are two Shazams in the DC universe. And I've always been a fan of Mary Marvel, but I was never a big fan of how they always kept sharing the power. You know, it's like either it's just Shazam or it's all of them. I don't like one or here or there. But this kind of solves that for me, that she has her own pantheon and can keep doing the Shazam thing on her own without having to share the power with her little brother Billy. So and this was like much of the great panel at the back. It shows the wizard and the pantheon of goddesses speaking to each of them and saying, say the word or speak the word. Zoom out a little bit. There you go. Split panel. So that was, that was kind of cool ending. But the story was written by, G. Willow Wilson, and about a dozen people handled the art and coloring and lettering on this book. So I'm not, Clunan, Conrad, Campbell, Tormey, Martinez, Yarsky, Fernandez, Vaughn, Grabadger, Morales, Livesay, Belair, and Guimaraes. So a lot of people did this book, But and like I said, I believe this is the end of the Lazarus Planet now. So now it's time for me to move on to another event. So I think that might be, I don't know, something with night.
Yeah, I think there was a checklist in one of those books. I think you got like what 60 books to pick up. So
Something like that, yeah.
And while on the topic of Shazam, real quick, I read the new Champion of Shazam. That was a 4-issue run starring Mary, and that was fantastic. I absolutely love that one. So
Okay, yeah, that was another one I should have brought up, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that is going to do it for the weekly reviews. Because we shifted around the show, we actually have a club discussion coming up next. But before we jump over to there, once again, a big thank you to Brian Lynch, the creator of Herald and his Hot Wing of Justice, for showing up here at the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, not only to talk about his creations, his fandoms, as well as his weekly picks from Free Comic Book Day. But yeah, it was excellent to have you on the show. Once again, the links will be popping up. Post Anthony has all of his work cut out for him. He's going to throw those links up there. And so reach out to Brian Lynch if you want to get a hold of any of those. So once again, thank you, sir, for coming on to the podcast.
I want to thank all of you, Anthony, for putting this here together. Kirby and Katie and Jim, you guys are just awesome, and I really appreciate you guys giving me the platform to talk about my favorite creation right now, my Hot Wing of Justice. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And as we do for all of our guests here at the show, you're always welcome back, whether it's to show off the next creation or just to hang out because you want to talk about, your new comic books that you picked up. So the invite is literally always there for any time you want to return. So
thank you so much. I will definitely take you up on that one day soon. Okay.
Okay. And I just booked you in for next Saturday. So we'll see you then. But before we can get to next Saturday, we're going to jump over to the club discussion.
All right. Catch y'all in the laters. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yep. We got it all stopped there. And yes, have yourself a good night.
You too, guys. Thanks, Anthony.
All right. So let me hit the old save button here on the audio. Oh, cool. Man, I think I might have to make some chicken wings tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right. Hit the old record, get everything back rolling. We're going to do
Pick up some of those chicken wings, boneless chicken wings from the deli case over at Piggly Wiggly. Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good.
The habanero, mango habaneros are really nice spicy ones if you want that.
Ooh, nice. Good. All right. For the club discussion, we'll do It's Jeff first. That'll probably be our longest review ever on the podcast. And then we will do the Once Upon a Time. Okay. So let me just get my windows back in order here. Okay, here we are. Welcome to the club discussion. We're going to kick it off here with what will probably be our most in-depth, most controversial, most just crazy deep dive into a comic exploration that we have ever done here on the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. No title is bigger than this. Mark Miller, he talks big about his titles, but I'm assuming there was an asterisk there that meant outside of this title, because no bigger character has been created in our generation, the generations before us, since comics have been created. No better character than Jeff the Land Shark, who I always have at the ready here on the Crimson Cowl Comic Club desk. We are going to be talking about It's Jeff, the issue number one shot. Jeff the Land Shark stars in his own fantastic comic. Since his very first appearance, Jeff the Land Shark has flooded our hearts like an adorable tidal wave. Now, the ingenious, the extraordinary, and the unbearably innocent Jeff embarks on his own adventures across the Marvel Universe. You thought it was safe doing laundry or going for a leisurely swim in the pool, but no activity can protect against Jeff's cuteness. This is collecting the hit Infinity Comics series from the Marvel Unlimited app. This one shot features a brand new cover and tail. That's Tail. And, oh no, we mean tail. Look at that. I was trying to make a joke and they were already doing the joke at the end. They meant tail. Tale. All right, this comic is done by Kelly Thompson and Gary Huru, I believe is how you pronounce that name. All right, so It's Jeff number one. Came out with many adorable covers. I see Kirby's holding up, I think, every single cover. He's got quite a few. We've got two of the same. I would be
All but
lying.
one.
I would be lying if I said this wasn't the sole reason I subscribed to the Marvel Unlimited app when this started rolling out, I think 2 falls ago. And when I heard about that there was going to be a Jeff the Land Shark series, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait till it's in the catalog. I'm going to pre-order that, and I can't believe this character finally getting their due. And then I found out that it's exclusive for the Marvel Unlimited app, and they're going to do this Marvel Infinity Scroll. When you go through the app, basically the story flows every time you kind of you pan through the panels, and they didn't know when they were making this if this was going to be printed one day, because it was specifically designed for your tablets and smartphones. And going through and just looking at these pages here, there's a lot of content. It's a very quick read, but it's very adorable. A lot of details to go through. I think there's a lot of genius when it comes to the storytelling. When you have next to no words, you're getting couple growls, you're getting a couple emojis and word balloons and such like that. But this is one of those things that I'm like, I sure hope they do put it in print, and they found a way to do it. And here it is. We're all talking about. We're all very excited once we saw It's Jeff show up. So what we're going to do here is kind of everyone's going to take their turn to kind of talk about what they thought about this adorable collection of stories. Let's start with Katie here. If you want to give us your impressions on It's Jeff number one.
Yeah, happily. I adore this little comic. It was so sweet. Jeff is just adorable and I want to hug him. I need a comic with Jeff and Baby Groot and Baby Grogu all together, and I would spend like so much money buying merch for that. You can definitely tell this was designed for doom scrolling on your phone. If you're reading it on the Kindle app, I think it does make it a little better because it goes panel by panel. So it's a little more akin to what you would have seen on the Marvel app. I could see where if this is printed, it loses a little bit of that effect. I think my favorite one was the pool party. Even though I knew it was going to happen, it was still really cute to see that joke play out. And then the one that was the most unexpected was the Thanksgiving one, where I, like the other Avengers, thought for a second, oh my Lord, they cooked up Jeff the Land Shark. But no, he was just a hungry little boy and he ate the turkey, even though Kate told him he shouldn't do that, but that's okay. Very cute, super fun. I'm glad I read it. Would read more of these. It really has the vibe of like Sunday funnies in the newspaper, like newspaper comic strips. So I appreciate that. Nothing too deep, but I enjoyed it. It was really fun. I think it's certainly a lovely all ages comic that be good for kids and kids at heart. Check out It's Jeff.
Excellent. Let's jump over to Kirby. What are your thoughts on It's Jeff?
I loved it, and it was one of the reasons I considered falling for your little tricks and joining the Marvel app just because of Jeff. And I'm like, no, I know it's going to come out in paper. It's just they're not going to give. Not they have to do that.
Yeah,
But
they gotta
yeah,
make more money.
I love the pool party one. You would think Jeff pooped in the pool, considering all these big superheroes are afraid of a tiny little shark. But I I like when he goes to the costume shop, and what costume does he pick out? A dolphin costume.
Yeah.
I love when they're out sledding and he plays around with Captain America, gets his hands on that. But I'd say probably my favorite one would be the one, what's it called? Thief, is it Thief for Justice? No, Jeff the Magnanimous, where he's basically getting himself a piece of fish from the fish market and scares away the cat and goes away happy with his fish in his mouth, and then happens to see the cat again come across him. And I like the way that story played out. It was nice and heartfelt. But yeah, these are all so much fun. I just can't go wrong with any of these stories. And this is probably one of the best books I've read without words in a while. So, and I still got to read Harley's new one, but yeah, these were a lot of fun. And it's nice and thick, even though you don't have words, you still get a lot of little stories in her.
Yeah, and once again, it shows like I know like I use this reference a lot, but like I remember a comment. Now it's funny I'm bringing up Brian Lynch. I'm not actually talking about the Brian Lynch that was just on our program here, but Brian Lynch, who is a comic book writer and screenwriter. You'll know him from such projects for the. I shouldn't have started with that one because I can't think of the name, but he wrote the Minions movie. Who's the cat from Shrek? The
Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots, yeah. So he worked on like the first one of that. He did the Secret Life of Pets movies, the Minions movies, basically just killing it in the animation game. And I remember a comment going back to him, I think on Twitter, when someone kind of criticized just talking about like, well, it's got to be easy to write a Minions movie because all they speak is gibberish and everything. And it's like, well, actually, it's kind of difficult because when you write your dialogue, everybody has to know what they're saying without any real words that anybody has ever known before. So if
And it's
anything,
everybody in
yeah,
every language actually understands the minions without knowing the minion language, which is
and
awesome.
and it's like when people write Groot in the comics that there are some comics where he does speak, full dialogue and stuff early on, but in the movies and in some of the modern day comic books for Groot, that by context and maybe by whatever the characters how they react to him, like you don't need to understand what he says to know what he says, and it comes down to the writing of the talent of the writer. And I think that all implies with the creation of both the writer and the artist for this series, just to be able to tell these stories in a very entertaining way, and to tell a story with very minimal words, next to no words, basically. But yeah. I was also going to call out the dolphin one too. Getting a going to the costume shop and getting a dolphin costume to basically seeing how people. I was going to cue it up here. Basically, we see Jeff going to the beach and kind of witnessing a bunch of people surfing. Wants to jump into the ocean, but then before Jeff does, kind of halts a little bit because he kind of remembers how people react to what happened. So you see him go into the costume shop, you see him walk out with a bag on top of him there. You don't know what he went to go get, but here it is. He finally gets to go in the ocean, not looking like a shark, instead looking like a dolphin, whichever one, doesn't get scared around. So but yeah, it's it's so great. They get to do more of these things, and there's a lot of fun stuff behind the scenes with the creation of Jeff, where so many other, I think, artists started putting little Easter eggs in the back of, like, in the comic panels, no matter what title it was. Let's just say it was like in like Wolverine's apartment or something, and maybe there's a little frame that has a picture of Jeff the Land Shark or something, or you'll see a Jeff the Land Shark plush like sitting on somebody's couch. And like, you would just go back since the creation of this character and start seeing all of these little Easter eggs that people started putting in just because, oh, Jeff's adorable, we're just gonna basically take over the Marvel universe with Jeff. So, like, we have a Deadpool movie that's filming right now for the MCU. We have Kate Bishop in the MCU. We don't have a Gwenpool yet, but we got a lot of these characters. And if they bring Jeff into any form of the MCU somewhere, like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. But so, yeah. All right. Any other closing thoughts anybody want to talk about? I think we pretty much all felt the same exact way about this beautiful title. And then I got the this cover here too. But yeah, beautiful stuff. Now, Katie did mention, wanting to see you got your baby Groot and Jeff the Land Shark and Grogu, and just seeing all of them hang out together. Disney has the power to make that happen. I didn't have enough time to run upstairs, but I was able to make 2/3 of that dream come true. So if we take a little close, and once again, this is a perfect advertisement. If you are listening on the iTunes version of this podcast, the audio version of the podcast, subscribe to Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube, because you will have to see the image I am going to throw up here in the form of action figures, as Jeff the Land Shark and Baby Groot are just going along for a ride. Here they are.
Aw,
So yeah,
perfect.
fits perfectly on the fin there. So I'm gonna have to go find a Grogu that's probably upstairs somewhere to make that dream come true. But there it is. Awesome, awesome stuff. Now we're gonna talk about a comic that could not be more different than what we just talked about, because we have issue number 5 of our series that we've been discussing here at the Comic Club. This is Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. I got that shiny all red cover here, so I gotta hold it so you can actually see what's going on here. Mace is determined to prove himself the only way he knows how, and his stubbornness brings Mezzie's ire. But the Wasteland Rangers prove too dangerous even for Mezzie, and Mace will have to do more than a symbolic gesture if they want to make it out alive. Will love prevail? At least for a while. This comic is done by Jason Aaron, Alexandre Tefenki, Lee Loridge, Nick Dragata, Rico Renzi, and World Design. All right. We left off issue number 4 talking about the Apocalyptics. I always have to make sure I sound out every syllable when pronouncing that word. The Apocalyptics, and leading into this book, we see that Mace is basically thrown into the challenge. We see how Mace deals with those challenges. We see Mezzie basically coming back and trying to save Mace. We see the Rangers, all of the events that are happening throughout this issue. There's a lot happening, a lot of craziness. We're just going to dive into it here as we go around, and I believe all of us have read this title, so this will be the discussion on that. And Jim, given the thumbs up, I'm actually going to throw it over to you first if you want to kick us off in this discussion for what you thought of about Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, number 5.
First off, this cover, at least the digital cover, is my favorite by far. So this I don't know, it's gonna show on the.
So yeah, you got like the main. I'm assuming the main cover.
Yeah,
It is really good.
and it's not gonna rotate right for that. So there we go. Rotate. There we go. And I skipped.
Title page.
There you
There we
go.
go.
That's the same one that you guys got, but
Is that issue number 4, I believe, though?
that is number 5.
Oh, okay. It does look kind of similar. I just had number 4 here. I was looking, I'm like, oh, it's kind of almost the. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that is an awesome cover. And this is, I would say it's a very satisfying wrap up to the first story arc. It ends exactly where you want it to be, but it is not disappointing in storytelling to get there. Even though it ends where you want it to be, it doesn't skimp on leaving any of the details you wanted to know to get there. And there is a huge, like you talked about the apocalyptics, probably Olympics,
Apocalyptics, yeah.
where Mace has got to face the Rangers and the winner is, and basically it's a life or death situation. And even though he's got the opportunity to get away, he decides that no, he is going to face this combat, and even though it could be potentially deadly for him. And it just shows a bit of courage and spine that we did not think he had before this, and it just makes him such a great, powerful character in my mind. I want to see him more and more now. And originally I was on Team Mezzy, but now I'm Team Mace now. So
He won you over on this one.
yep.
Yeah,
Not just his creativity, but his guts and sticking it out.
the series has dipped with like having, it's obviously a very serious topic and the apocalypse and all this stuff and monsters and adventure and death and all this stuff, but then it has a very interesting approach to humor. Like there's more humor in this series than I expected, and we've talked about in the past whether it's a ridiculous one with just the size of his backpack and things like that. Like there are moments like that where things get really goofy, but it still consistently kind of keeps that going. So when you're going into something called the Apocalyptics and you're building up on this first page here, and Mace is just kind of really amping himself up and saying like, yeah, I'm none of these people stand a chance. And then we just get a little highlight reel to kick off this issue of sludge jumping, bug eating, rat killing, distance spitting, one that I really thought was hilarious, man roaring. I'll show the man roaring event there, the Apocalyptics. Cactus tackling. There's the triathlon with as running, knifing, and praying. There's sexual disregard. And finally, golf. But yeah, so like I didn't expect the Apocalyptics to have that kind of approach to it. I'm just expecting just all this crazy. I just wasn't expect to laugh like at every single panel. So, all right, let's jump over to Kirby. Thoughts on issue number 5?
I liked it. I liked how they finished it off. We could have saved a lot of time in South Dakota if we could have Mace make us some weapons for construction, but it was interesting how he dealt with the Rangers and figured out how to deal with this apocalyptics type challenge that he had to deal with. I was kind of surprised that they obviously have been separated for so long in the end. I kind of expected them to be together more towards the end of this, but it's interesting what's happening with it. It's like it's hard not to give away everything on it, but yeah, I liked where it went. I'm looking forward to book 2. And this is obviously going on, which is nice to know. And we'll get a little bit further, but I hope we also fall back and fill in a lot of the gaps that, because they just jumped so far. I mean, we basically went probably over a good 40-year period, if not more than that. They jumped with 5-issue comics, so I'd like to see it go a little deeper into that and see, like, even the Rangers, what happened to the Rangers, if any of them survived this. I'm assuming that our new characters that entered the realm aren't past Rangers. I assume they're different characters. But yeah, it's the Rangers' little philosophy and stuff was pretty goofy. Like, I mean, cactus tackling and stuff like that. I don't know how those events really serve a purpose in survival, but yeah, Anthony named them all off. And I would have expected Mace to be really good at the golf part. And I figure with his mind, how he builds everything and stuff, I figured he'd be probably the best one in the golf art aspect of the Apocalyptics. But yeah, this is a fun ending. I'm happy where it went.
I gotta say, I don't tune in for any of our real world Olympics or anything. Just has no interest with me. But if they, started doing the Apocalyptics and they had such cactus tackling and distance spitting going on, I'm like, I think I'm tuning in every night for what these events are happening around the world. So, but yeah. And then kind of talking about what you said about, like, taking the future jump, and we've gotten teases of where these characters journeys go much, as they're much older, and that's just proof of just how much story that they know ahead of time when developing this. Like, they definitely have a path, and I'm on board for all of it, just to kind of see them fill in those gaps and catch us
And
up.
what made Mace change the clothing line so much in the end? Because in the early days, Mace would wear very heavy armored outfits.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I'm just looking at it here. I'm not going to show it on screen, but yeah, a different, wardrobe choice. So
We caught him in the shower.
let's jump over to Katie for your thoughts on issue number 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So excellent review, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. You brought up a lot of my points. I enjoyed this book quite a bit. I think I probably enjoyed it the most out of all the ones we've read so far, but they've all been very good. Definitely grab the trade if you haven't followed along the single issues. Let's see. So some things that I specifically liked are, I really appreciated the character development of our two main characters, in that Mace has toughened up a little bit, but in his own Mace way. He's really risen to the occasion, and he's grown from the kid we see in his tower who, is very good-hearted and very smart, but doesn't fully grasp what's going on outside of his environment. And we have Mezzy, who, in a way, through her experiences, has become a little bit more compassionate, and is a little bit more sensitive to things around her. In a way, they were both kind of naive about things. Mace is naive about the state of the world, and Mezzy, I felt like, was kind of naive, or at least repressing, like, human interactions and like how to connect with people on an emotional level. And we have seen them through their problems each grow as a character, and I thought this book did a great job of summing that up. It shows us through our actions, like, Mace is willing to fight, but that might be fighting with his brain, and Mezzy is able to sacrifice of herself, of her well-being, of her beliefs, for somebody she really cares about, for a better future. And I thought that was very cool. I liked that quite a bit. Of course, the Apocalyptics are very funny. I think I like the cactus tackling. That was pretty goofy. I feel like if you can tackle a cactus, you're probably pretty tough, but you're not that smart because why would you want to why do that? Anyway, and then the moment that I think I liked the most was when Mezzy sneaks back out from the cars in the junkyard to Mace, and she's like, "Come on, you got to get out of there. They're gonna kill you." He's like, "I know, but I have to stay." That more than the ending actually was the high point of their character arc for me. Um, I the way Mace solves the problem, I'm going back and forth and like, is that a little goofy or does that actually make sense? But we're gonna go with it's a little goofy, but you know what, Mace is a little goofy, so we'll say it works. I don't know if I had been dragged across the desert by a cult leader that I'd be like, wow, that pretty rock is like really making me feel things. I'm gonna totally abandon my way of life. Although to be fair, I was going to say I watched a movie when I was 10 years old and I was so impressed by how cool it was that it did in fact actually change my life. So what the hell do I know? I like the villain of Ma in this. She is so manipulative and knows exactly where to push people where it hurts to try and make them do things. And you can see that that is how she's used to accomplishing things and getting, you know, getting things done. This is how she leads, is by basically like threatening people, like, if you don't do what I say and act the way I want you to, you know, I'm going to hurt you in this way. And oftentimes it's through people we care about for like petty offenses. And she fights more with her words and ideas than she does like in any physical sense. And I think that's very interesting. I'm not a psychologist, but if we look at like, okay, how do you press people into doing something horrible? It's kind of an interesting topic to think about, is like how much of it is based off of actions and how much is just fear of reprisal. Pretty cool. I like her as a villain. She's a manipulative bitch. She got what she deserved. I felt pretty sure she was gonna offer Mezzy a devil's bargain to take up her position. I felt pretty sure that was coming. So I was pleased when that did happen. You know, it's always nice to be right, but it made sense for the arc, and I think I guess we'll see what Mezzy does with that. I know she's turned it down right now and basically set the Rangers free and is like, well, you wanted to be survivalist so much, so good luck, survive. Anyway, a lot to like about this book, a lot to discuss. I really enjoyed it and I thought it was pretty good. I'd read some more issues of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World.
You know, there's a universe that this could have been my first issue of reading this series. Like if I had
Yeah.
skipped on this and if none of us all like agreed on it, you know, maybe I wouldn't have picked it up, but I would have done it with the Mike and Laura Allred variant cover. And so this could have been my first issue. And quite frankly, with that opening of the Apocalyptics, you know, I don't even know how I would, you know, react to this book, because I would get all the laughter, but then like the way the book starts and the way this issue ends, I should say the way this issue starts, the way this issue ends, are completely like exact opposite. You're laughing, and then at the end, it's just like horrific images and just like I can't even think about like what I would have thought of this title, you know, if I had just be like, I don't know what this book is, but it definitely had enough there to I would have to go back and read them all, but yeah.
I think though, even if you just picked up this issue, it does give you enough in this issue to give you kind of a beginning and an end.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like I just be like, what is this book? Like what have I been missing? Like from cactus tackling to that last panel of that guy.
Yeah.
Like and just like, you know, I'll show this image here. One of the horrific images as we dip into our future scenario. But like just looking at that, just like yeah, this book takes a lot of leaps, and it's great. All right. Any other closing thoughts on this particular issue at all? Now, this won't be the last we're talking about this series in this episode, because Katie has submitted a letters page question, and it just so happened to tie in with the theme of this series here. So I have the question up here, and here we go. So Katie submitted, "You are part of the Rangers from Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. How do you get around their list of sins, and what loopholes do you take advantage of? What, if any, exceptions do they allow?" Now, this refers going back to issue number 4, where we have the Maw character going through and kind of listing about all of the things, basically asking, I believe, Mezzy, uh, to list the things on how the world, ended and how it came to. I just want to get to the actual quote here now that I'm talking about it. Um, but yeah, there is a moment there, right here. Um, tell me what ruined the world. And they go and list progress, diversity, indecency, gender nonconformity, multiculturalism. There's a lot of multiple syllable words here. Processed foods, premarital intercourse, literature, all of these things that are kind of listed and which are kind of deemed as sins that kind of ruin the world here. So she brought up that question, which I think is an excellent discussion. Katie, if you want to take your answer first, you did give us an example, but
Mhm.
please let us know what your answer is to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. This came about because the last time we read this comic as a club, after I signed off, I had to go. I didn't have to. I volunteered to go and cook for the family, and I used ramen noodles as a soup base. Because I'm not making bone broth by hand, like no. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if like I could do that because I'm engaging in traditional gender roles by cooking, but I'm using processed foods. Like it doesn't get more processed than packaged ramen noodles. So that's how come this question came about. So I thought about this quite a bit, and I guess the first question I had to answer is, would I choose to survive in this situation? And I'm gonna go with yes, because I feel like our human instinct to survive is strong. And I could maybe play it a little bit to my advantage. So um having been born with an XY chromosome set, I can actually spin this a little bit to my advantage. If it comes to a physical fight, I will not win. Right. But if we look at traditional female gender roles of teaching, nursing, housekeeping, childcare, gardening, I'm an okay cook. I'm an okay baker. I could contribute. But what I'm actually pretty decent at is reading and writing. And I could teach that as like, like be the teacher in the one room schoolhouse and teach the children. And that would be a way to just like meet my basic needs and survive day to day. And then I thought, well, I don't want to live in a system that is like that controlling. Like I can't have a fruity drink, like no more fruity cocktails. I don't think so. So what I'm going to do is while I'm teaching the kids, as we're singing our nursery rhymes and our little nonsense songs, and okay, A is for apple, C spot run, Jack and Jill went up the hill and all that. And we're learning to read. I'm going to slip in like little propaganda ideas about how I think the world should be, right? Or like, oh, we're going to like, they're not allowed to celebrate Christmas, right? So like I will read them a story about like Santa and Rudolph and maybe baby Jesus and Joseph and Mary, or like Hanukkah. Why not? We're going to read about all the different religions, Kwanzaa, Diwali, right? And then when, the senior rangers come and check in on us, because I'm sure they have like a commissar type system, I'll be like, oh, these are just stories, like we're just, like I'm just like telling the children fairy tales, like they don't mean anything, don't worry, everything's fine, like I'm not hurting them, we're going to go and work on our cactus tackling, archery, margarita mixing badges next, don't worry about it. And so then by the time this generation of children grows up and the older generation dies out, right, they'll be like, oh, I remember when Miss Katie told us about Christmas, or like when Miss Katie taught us how to read, and that like Jack and Jill are both equals, even though like they're a boy and a girl, they can still do similar things. And like their worth isn't defined by, their private parts or anything like that. Like, then they'll be like, okay, these ideas are planted. We'll see them grow, and then society will be remade in a way that I think is more tolerable. I do realize as I'm explaining that sounds a little bit fascist, but I would try and make it a little less restrictive than what the Rangers are all on about. Like, you are allowed to laugh at funny TV shows. You can have birthdays, all that good stuff. I'm not going to just make blanket statements and be like, yeah, fruity drinks and poetry are what ruined the world. Yeah, okay, all right, fine. So anyway, that's how I would survive, is by playing the long game and actually using my strengths in reading and writing. Don't ask me for arithmetic, though. I'm shit at that. To to survive day to day in this world, and also maybe help out with some cooking with ramen noodles, I guess. Anyway, that's my answer.
Well, it's a very great question, very detailed answer, and it's something like that. It's very fun because we never really pose questions. Yeah, I think that's a good idea going forward too. Is kind of like always be thinking about these club discussions, and if there's any fun scenarios and questions that we can kind of add to our group discussion. So I definitely appreciate the get the ball rolling on that.
Thanks. And
Let's
people can answer this as seriously or as unseriously as they want. Don't feel like this is like a comment on like your morality or anything. This is just for fun.
I'm pretty safe that my answer isn't going to be used, so I'm going to take that risk by throwing it over to the other guys here first. But Jim, how do you approach answering this question?
How do I approach it, or how do I approach it if I was one of these teenage Ranger boys? Right now, I would approach it a lot differently than I did if I was a teenage boy. I would have been probably pretty much stuck following the authority, following the rest of the pack. But nowadays, I'm going to say, no, I'm going to go, I'm doing what I want. I'm doing my own thing. If I can't make it because I'm not with you, I can't make it. And I'm okay with that. You leave me here, go ahead, I'll figure out something for as long as I can. And when it's done, I'm done. But and then I got to your second part of the question there, Katie, where you said something about, is it permissible to use processed food? You know what? In the apocalypse, if they're not using processed food, I bet they're dying pretty darn quick.
That's actually a very good point. Yeah. Good idea. Thank you. No, I didn't think of that. You're absolutely right.
Good. All right, let's jump over to Kirby. How do you approach this here?
Well, for one thing, I don't work and play well with others, according to some of my bosses in the past. So I don't know how well I'd get along with sticking with the crew and staying there. I'd have to eventually have to wander on my own, and I'd basically be like Mace and find myself someplace in the middle of this apocalypse and make it my own empire type, my own building for myself. But if I had to conform and deal with their crap, I'd probably go the cooking route, the barista style route, have a nice little cooking area so I have access to certain things like potatoes or dandelions or something like that, where I can sit there and make some dandelion wine, some toilet vodka, whatever. And basically, when the old lady goes off to bed and stuff, I flip the tables and my little speakeasy comes out, and everybody can come hang out, we'll party, we'll have fruity drinks, we'll read poetry, we'll do art, we'll do whatever we want and just have a blast. And if any of the jackasses, the older Rangers, decide that they want to go tattle on us, well, they'll accidentally get eaten by rats. So we'll take care of that problem too. But yeah, that's the way I'd probably go.
I figured out why they tackle the cactuses. It's to get the agave for tequila.
Yeah.
Well, when I looked at the list and I had rereading what they were talking about, listing all those things, the literature is the one that kind of jumped out at me, thinking like, if I wasn't allowed to partake in any of these things, I'm just like, are they telling me that, literature, what are they meaning exactly? Are they just talking about any kind of fiction or nonfiction? I'm like, well, I read a lot of, comics and, graphic novels and things like that. And I'm like, well, I'll probably go along with their rules, but I'm going to have to find ways to experience specifically literature. And what drew me to that answer is because when people kind of smuggle in items, whether it's just whether it's drugs or alcohol, sometimes you're sneaking it inside like a hollowed out book. You have a
Hmm.
book and then you open it up and then you realize that something's like hidden in there. I'm going to do the reverse of that and basically find an object that I can put books into. So I'm hiding the books. I'm finding some hollowed out things. Now I'm flipping through the issues and I'm trying to figure it out. And they listed the all of the different rooms that they had, and they had a punching room, and you saw all like the punching bags and everything like that. And I'm like, well, it'll be kind of bumpy and lumpy and things like that, but I'm going to stuff as many books as I can, especially if they're comic books. I can roll them up. People will cringe at that, but I don't care. I'm going to roll those comics up. I'm going to put them inside a big punching bag. I'm going to carry it around and just be like, oh, yep, I got to restuff, re-sew the punching bag, don't mind me. But I'm taking that punching bag and, I'm opening it up and I have all my comics for the week. I have my pull list going yet. I'm hoping my local comic shop still has my subscriptions going, just they're always very loyal and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that's still happening. But that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the reverse thing by basically hiding books inside of other objects. And that's basically how I'm going to get around that sin of literature by still experiencing it.
I
Don't
can
worry,
see.
Anthony, I got you. I'm gonna sneak it in with my teaching materials. So like I'll just be reading to the kids about the Fantastic Five and Space Guy and Chrome Surfer Dude, and then they won't really know, but you and I will know, and I will just slip them to you amidst some geometry homework.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Of course.
I can see in this apocalyptic world that there could be a comic shop with a back room with actual comic creators chained to a wall, forced to keep making their comics so we can get our weekly subscription.
That's dark, but I would totally read that.
I mean, you got to reach those deadlines somehow, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that was an excellent letters page submission. It's definitely going to keep my mind open as we go along of our titles and just kind of try to come up with some fun questions that I'm sure a lot of book clubs do when they meet for prose novels and things like that. So yeah, that was definitely very much appreciated, and we got some good answers out of it. Cool. All right, well, that is going to do it for this episode. You were expecting the weekly reviews to happen next, but once again, we did that because we had Brian Lynch on the show talking about his creation of Harold and the Hot Wing of Justice. Then we had our weekly reviews, and then we had our comic club discussion. We do have a future title coming up because we're at the penultimate issue of this initial discussion for the Punisher. And we're hoping to do that with our next scheduled episode, bring in Eric, our resident Punisher expert, to talk about Punisher number 11, and of course, future issues of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. We will be doing all of the May preview catalogs in our next episode, and we are really winding down on our current club picks. So we'll keep that in mind as we mention books and to speak up, and we'll see if we can find some good things to talk about for the second half of a 2023 here. Cool. All right, and I think, and then we're also going to do what C2E2 ended, I think, like 5 months ago. So I'm going to talk about the last portion of it because it seems like it keeps dragging on. Had a couple episodes missed here and there, but I'm going to do one more recap probably for C2E2. Katie has returned from some globe-trotting adventures. We're going to hear that, the journeys to Middle Earth. So stay tuned for future episodes of that. And now it's time for some quick plugs. CrimsonCowl.com. Go there for some original webcomics and info about this very podcast from Crimson Cowl Media. If you want to email us any letters page questions, have any other concerns or comments, Crimson Cowl Comic Club at yahoo.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube for the video version, because if you are watching us right now, you've reached the channel. Make sure you're subscribed, hit like, send in some comments. And we also do a Hellbook, that's what we should have called it, a Hellboy book club series on YouTube as well. We have a couple episodes banked. We're going through all of the original Hellboy stories. So I got a couple of those I got to drop yet. We have The Crimson Cowl on Instagram. Not too much activity over there, but hopefully room to improve. If you want to listen to this on the audio version, subscribe to Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. We are almost at the end here, folks. Under the Call of MS, I'm going to let Kirby talk because that's a podcast that he does. Give the listeners and the viewers here a little taste of what they can expect from Under the Call of MS and what you came out with this past week and what's to come.
If you're watching this audio in video format, then you'll see me showing off comics throughout this episode. They were Free Comic Book Day comics that I picked up last Saturday, the day that we're recording this. I am releasing my complete Free Comic Book Day review, and there's a partial one because DC wasn't on the list, but they did have some comics come out that I did also the day before that, I believe, but this comes out a few days after it. So go back and look at that on the audio. I also got a few episodes of all the previews out. And we got a couple more unpacking videos on YouTube right now. But yeah, lots of stuff dealing with Free Comic Book Day right now. And some good unpacking. So check those out.
Cool. Subscribe to wherever you get your podcast to Under the Call of MS as well as on YouTube. I myself have some hobby artist accounts, Anthony Latch, LAATSCH, over on Facebook and Instagram. I have a Cartoonist by Night, which is a drawing show on YouTube. Subscribe to Cartoonist by Night. Myself, Troy Dungera, Matt Rogers, and Matt Fife. We've got several big themed episodes banked. By the time this Crimson video comes out, I think we're releasing our second episode, which will be a one-on-one session between myself and Troy, a special little segment that we did that we recorded earlier this morning. So we have a lot of fun stuff planned for Cartoonist by Night. So subscribe to that over on YouTube. That's going to do it for
an
this
episode of Cartoonist by Night this morning.
Yes, it's a little peek behind the curtain, but it literally for our time was 8 a.m. So Cartoonist by Night started at 8 a.m. So
I teased them. They have to get some shirts that say Cartoonist by Day now.
Yeah. We'll get on that. We definitely need some more, any excuse.
By day, by night, by night, by day.
Any excuses to make more merch, I think we're on it. So, all right.
24/7 Cartoonist.
That's going to do it for this awesome return. We've been off and on here and there with our schedules and such. So it was good to have everybody back. Excited to do this show again, throw it out there for everybody. But it's time to end this episode. This whole time, stale beef jerky has been my favorite flavor.
I've been hot wing of the Jeffocalypse, hot fin of the Jeffocalypse.
I earned my merit badge in reading and writing.
I'd say it's my greatest invention yet.
To be continued.
Thank you, Slimer.
Hi, everybody. I'm Troy.
I'm Matt Rogers.
I'm Matt Fife.
And I'm Anthony Latch, and we are Cartoonist by Night.
We all met online thanks to our shared interest in comics and cartooning.
On our show, we hang out to draw and discuss whatever pop culture topics are on our minds.
We are fully aware that a show like this has never existed before, and we hope we live up to the hype.
So join us at our website, YouTube, and other social media platforms and watch us cartoon by night. The actual show isn't going to be scripted like this was. Oh.
Oh.